He's adjusting, and then they're always readjusting with someone 6'7", and then someone 6'5" before me. So that sits in the chair. So it's all good. Having fun. It's Thursday, so we're getting closer.
I mean, it's practically the weekend. People should just check out now. Just leave.
Oh yeah, a lot of people don't drive into work on Fridays. Now everybody's working from home. So yeah, this is the end of the week for most.
Let me ask you if this is an overreaction. I saw this earlier this week on ESPN. I made a note of it. I was going to ask you, and I thought I'll ask Blaine today.
You know what ESPN is like to me? It's like the people who are out there in public that are always talking, and you care about what they think. I don't give a crap what you say. I know I'm going to do what I need to do.
Sure.
It's when it comes to sports, because you only control you. They control themselves. They're going to say whatever they want to say. That don't mean it's true.
Oh, no, this isn't necessarily a true or not true. It's just one guy's opinion, but I'm curious to see if you
I don't care about people's opinion.
All right, tell me.
As a player, I'm just telling you as a player mindset.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They did an overreaction segment, which is a total ESPN thing. But the first thing that they did was Titans are Super Bowl contenders. Is that an overreaction? And they had Dan Graziano, who's a reporter. He said, no, that's not an overreaction. At this point, 7 games into the season, not an overreaction that Titans are a Super Bowl contender.
Well, I think you go back in the summertime before the season started and all the expectations. And the expectations were this was a Super Bowl contending team. And that hasn't changed. They've kind of evolved in, lose to the Jets, and then, things kind of fall off a cliff. And then all of a sudden they've recaptured it. Hats off to the coaching staff and the players to stay focused and get some guys healthy and fight through it. So I wouldn't say I think it's an overreaction for people who just now are thinking that.
Yeah.
That's why I said I go back to the beginning of the season and going into the season. I think that's why you made the trade for Julio Jones, really. Because now if they stack the box, not only do you have to stop one receiver, you got to stop 2. I think that was the only flaw, really, last season, even with the poorest defense. Like, that was glaring. They played the Ravens, and Corey Davis disappeared.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown was still there, but he needed help. Once they stop the run, and when you get in the playoffs, they will be stopping the king.
Yeah.
That don't mean you stop running them, but he may have a 30 for 80 type game. But that's a win for the Titans because he was still impactful in the game.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think they are right now, and they're showing that. My concern, though, there is a concern at this point in time. Can they maintain this level of play the rest of the season? And did they peak too soon? So these are the concerns because the way we watch this team, it didn't matter who's, the head coach. It's always a roller coaster ride. So are we riding this wave all the way now? Or are you going to stay steady Eddie, just like and know how you have to play each and every game? Now, there's, some health issues. You want to make sure, key players are healthy and you can fight through, certain guys, maybe for a game or two.
Mm-hmm.
But can they stay healthy and can they continue to play at this level for how long? That's tough. And if you're really, really good teams, they do.
Yeah.
And then you try to look at some, are there any glaring flaws to the team? Are there holes, let's say, holes, And the only thing I can think of is this health. Like the offensive line is solid, at least for sure, in run blocking. Got the receivers, got the quarterback, got the running back, got the D-line, linebackers, it's okay. And DBs, say corners, okay, safety's good. So, if you play with that pass rush that they had, that secondary always looked good.
Yeah.
So I think they got a shot here in the AFC. The most complete team right now is probably the Bills, and they beat them here at home. That you don't see any glaring weaknesses based off of their roster.
When you look at the Bills, you mean?
Yeah. In the AFC, and I'm only talking about the AFC. I think the AFC is weaker, though, than the NFC this season. I think the NFC, their 5 are really good. And they're going to knock each other off. That's not to say that, one AFC team can't beat them, but we shall see when the playoffs start and then when they get to Super Bowl.
There's an Associated Press power poll, and this is so funny because we were talking about this on Sunday ahead of the game, and you and Kevin Dyson and me, and you said this, and then I'll read you this.
And then they were listening? No, just kidding.
No, it's almost like they were listening Because we were talking about this.
What is that?
Who's the best team? You said, I think there's several teams. This is you said, I think there's several teams in the NFC that are better than the best team in the AFC. It's top heavy right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I clicked on this. The power poll from the Associated Press. Number 1, Cardinals. Number 2, Buccaneers. Number 3, Rams. Number 4, Packers. Number 5, Cowboys. The top 5 teams, all NFC. And then the Tennessee Titans, the Buffalo Bills, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chargers. It's 5 NFC teams and then 5 AFC teams is how they wound up ranking them.
Yeah, they need to quit, taking my material.
They completely took your material there. Because you said this on the air, too.
I'm going to start tweeting out all my ideas, that I come up with or what I say. That's why I need an intern. I got to get one, man.
Follow you around, catalog your ideas.
Yeah, everything I say.
Document them.
And I just say go.
Right.
And they type away and it's out. Whether good, bad, or indifferent. Go out. Yeah. First of all, my fingers are all crooked, so I can't type that fast. And then I forget what I say, so I try to write it down, and then I come up with another thought. Then I lose track. It's just kind of like when my wife tells me, 3 things to do, and I just, forget one. Because I wasn't actually.
Only one?
Yeah. Well, I was trying to be nice. I forget one. Dang it, you didn't. I forgot.
I just put everything in my phone now. Whatever you tell me. If you're like, hey, man, 6 Thursdays from now, I need you to come and pick me up. I'm getting my car worked on. I would be, okay, let me put this in my phone right now. Then I would set it to ding 2 hours before.
I'm worse for you. I said, you've told me 3 times. Why did you tell me? And that's a week away. You text me the day before that I'll get done.
I just put it in my phone. I would ask you to text me the day before.
That way, because I know if I forget, I can go back and look at it.
I just put it all on my phone.
Oh, man.
The Cardinals got some bad news. J.J. Watt out for the season, it looks like.
You know what's so interesting in that? I wanted to find out. They say shoulder. I want to know what it is. Torn labrum. Oh, dislocation. I want to hear more about what it is, but we don't. Reason why I say that, I think we know everything about Baker Mayfield's injury right now. We can tell you what his injury is.
Yeah.
So why do we not know what J.J. Watt's injury is?
He finished the game, too.
Yeah, they said he played the whole second half with it, whatever's wrong with it.
Whatever it is.
And then there's a possibility that he could be back for the playoffs. Okay, so what is it? I mean, if we know Baker's, why don't we know J.J. Watt?
J.J. Watt, even your guy Schefter just says, looks to be season-ending shoulder surgery, no date set. He hurt his shoulder in the second quarter Sunday, managed to play the rest of the game. No specific on what it is. Yeah. No specific.
Yeah, but they usually try to keep secrets on the quarterback. That's why I use Baker. So.
Oh. Now, this just dropped from Rap Sheet. You ready?
Okay, you was listening.
He's been digging. Once again, you say something. Here it is. How serious does an injury have to be to sideline J.J. Watt? Sources say he actually tore his labrum, his bicep, and his rotator cuff.
Oh, he's done. He's not playing no playoff.
I'm reading this live. And dislocated his shoulder.
So labrum, what'd you say, bicep?
Tore his labrum, his bicep, and his rotator cuff, and dislocated his shoulder.
Nah.
That's like the grand slam of ways to screw up his shoulder.
Didn't tear my labrum, haven't torn my bicep, but the other 2 I have done. And I'm not a D lineman, so this is almost impossible. He's hitting every single play. That's and he shouldn't do it at this point of his career because he's coming towards the end. So I would say he's done. Even if they go all the way to Super Bowl, he may dress and contribute maybe.
Yeah.
How long would that be? February? How many months is that?
I mean, dude, it's November. Yeah. I mean, it's practically November. What's today? The
28th?
28th?
Yeah. Nah, I wouldn't recommend that at all. 4 months, I would say, possibly. But it's so many different things here.
Yeah. And everybody's saying he's not going to have surgery until next week. That is November.
Yeah, they're trying to let it settle down a little bit. But dang, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. And maybe that all happened. And all of it happened because he continued to play. Something happened wrong, and he kept playing through maybe a labrum tear, and then this is what happens. Then bicep, because all that shouldn't be, it's all connected. But if you stop after, oh, dang, something right. I mean, you go out there now, your body is starting to do things it says no can do. Mm-hmm.
He did keep playing in that game.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have.
Right.
He shouldn't have.
There's
kept playing,
video.
or he wouldn't have had all this extensive injury. It might have been just one thing.
More from Rap Sheet. He did it a lot. It seems like so many guys damage their shoulder, just not necessarily hitting somebody and it's when they dive or when they hit the ground.
Right.
And he was chasing the quarterback of the Texans and was all stretched out
And fell on it.
and fell for the people watching on Zone TV.
Right.
It smashed his shoulder into the ground.
It's almost exactly how
Like
Baker fell.
Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So he did that, and then he probably kept playing, and it messed up everything else. Now, we made fun of, a lot of people, not us, on social media of who stuck their arm out there and said pick-a-boo with their arm from the Chiefs. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jones.
Yep, yeah. Chris Jones. Everybody. See, this is why I don't like social media. He pulled it back because you leave it out there, you can tear your shoulder.
Sure.
You can dislocate your shoulder. If I don't have enough shoulder and body there to collapse, Derrick Henry's going to run right through, and I may tear my elbow up.
Yeah.
Yeah. See? So some people say, oh, he was loafing. Nah, I think he's seen that happen before on film and go, uh-oh, I'm never doing that. Not with this dude.
Right.
Not the guy they call King. He said, this dude's like Flash.
Well,
He had some momentum going. So yeah, this is a tough one. But hey, the Cardinals they're still on a run. I'm sure they'll have somebody not as good as Watt naturally, but they'll have a couple guys. They may be looking for somebody in the trade, pick somebody up for waivers. You got to have a rotation of D-line, but they're playing so well right now. Whew.
I'd get on the phone with the Bills and just say, hey man, which one of these 10 guys y'all got you want to trade over here?
Oh, the Bills not letting anybody go.
Just one. Y'all got
No.
10. You'd have 9 if you traded me one.
Nah, they not.
I just
I
want
wouldn't
one
even
of
do
them.
it.
You tell me which one I can have. Pick one. I'll take the one you don't want. I got 10 defensive linemen.
I was like, give me one of your running backs then.
Hey, man, you never
It's
know.
almost basically
Trade
telling you to
deadline's
say no.
Tuesday. Let's grab one quick phone call here, Alex in Dixon, and then we'll talk to George Bremer next, who covers the coaches, or the Colts, rather, and their coaches. What's going on, Alex in Dixon? And their coaches.
I hope you guys are doing well. Speaking on, I'm going to talk Titans, but before I do that, is it me or is J.J. Watt automatically going to be on the top NFL top 100 list? Because it seems like he plays about 3 games a year and makes it in the top 20 somehow. But really, I want to talk about the Titans and the remainder of our schedule. I saw today where I think maybe now or after the Rams game, the Titans actually have the easiest strength of schedule for the remainder of the year. And that kind of scares me because, going into the Bills and the Chiefs game, to be honest with you, I was not worried one bit. I kind of thought those were going to be cakewalks. I was more scared about the Jets and the Jags game. And the fact that we play, quote-unquote, easy teams kind of scares me. So about what Blaine was saying about hitting our ceiling, I just want to get y'all's thoughts on playing the easy strength of schedule the rest of the year.
Appreciate the call,
All
Alex.
right. And I'm going to bring up the people who we play because I wrote them down here earlier this week. Colts, Rams, Saints. None of those are gimmies in my mind. Texas, Pats, Jags, Steelers, 49ers, Dolphins, Texans. So there's some, you want to say, easy ones or ones you say you should win, but you just, in this league, you don't know. I mean, like we could say the Texans, we got to win those, but that's a huge rivalry in the division.
Right.
They may show up and come out with some trick plays, but hopefully they've been trade half their team away. And then the Jaguars are going to be better. The Pats continually to get better. I still got them winning that one. And then the Steelers, I mean, they're the Steelers. And then the Dolphins. Maybe all the trade talk will come and then dismantle the team, and they'll just be dysfunctional. Hopefully that's second to last game. And the 49ers, you just, none's a gimme for me.
Me neither.
I always say that because being a former player, if you think just like looking at records, hey, you'll get beat and you won't be focused. So I'm always going to have that kind of mindset. It sounds scary, but I can't say they're going to beat the Jaguars and the Texans twice and the Dolphins and the 49ers. I just can't. I can't say that. I want to. They should.
Yeah.
But they should have beat the Jets. Everybody, they didn't have their 2 weapons. They still should have beat the Jets.
They should have.
He's in the red zone 3 times, came with 9 points.
Yeah. Well, they got to figure out how to beat the Colts in Indy on Sunday on Halloween. We'll discuss all that next. Again, George Bremer said to join us. He covers the Colts. He's one of their beat writers. We'll get all the inside info next on Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone.
Go 5.
We have the best broadcasters in the NFL. So why wouldn't you want Mike Keith and Coach Mack on your smartphone?
He can run this thing. 40, 45, 50, 45, Tannehill to the 41. What an effort.
Hear every Titans game by downloading the 104.5 The Zone app.
Joined on the phone Absolutely.
Yeah, we're everywhere. What are you talking about, man? In media.
Yeah, what is it about that acclaimed school of journalism at Ball State, George, that just keeps turning out you media types there?
Hey, #1 college newspaper in the country. You know, what can you say?
Well, I got you. George covers the Colts beat for the Herald Bulletin newspaper. Blaine's been saying this all week, and I agree with him. This game feels like it's going to have a playoff atmosphere. I mean, Indy's going to be turned up because if you're the Colts, the Titans could either leave there with a 1-game lead in the division or a 3-game lead in the division. So you're playing for your lives in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely. Darius Leonard said it today. You know, he said he never says it's a must-win game, but this is a must-win game. And I think from the Colts standpoint, it's an AFC South eliminator. They lose this game, there's really no way that you can draw up to win this division.
Wow. What's the story injury-wise for these guys? I know the list is the Titans' injury list has been unbelievably long, but the Colts have seen some key guys beat up too.
Yeah, I think they've got some really important players who are in a better shape than they were the last time around. Wentz is probably right at the top of that list. His ankle's finally starting to heal, and he's played pretty well the last 4 weeks. I think he's been the quarterback that they've wanted to see. Darius Leonard said today that he's probably 80% better than he was in the first meeting, but he's been hobbled on that ankle as well. Might have played his best game of the year in that rainstorm in San Francisco last weekend. But I think the big question mark is on T.Y. Hilton right now. Didn't play last week, has a little bit of a quad injury going on, hasn't practiced yet this week, but he's a guy that, you know, go all the way up till Saturday to make a decision on.
George Bremer, our guest at GM Bremer on Twitter.
Well, George, thanks for coming on, man. You know, both teams were banged up last time, but naturally you guys' quarterback Wentz basically had no ankles. That's funny to say. But I've watched you guys over the last 3 weeks. I know y'all lost to the Ravens, but, man, you guys look totally different in the 2 wins as well as the loss to the Ravens that came back on you guys at the end. Lamar was being Lamar. Man, what has changed besides Wentz being healthy? Because it seems like looks like he's playing like a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, he's been really good these last few weeks, and I think the biggest thing is that they've had some time together. You know, it was a crazy talk to you guys during training camp. It was a crazy summer for this team with the foot surgery, and then he missed a week with COVID protocols, and he got like maybe 5 or 6 practices with this offense before the season started, which is incredible when you think about it. So they were kind of learning on the fly. Then he got the ankle injury, and he was dealing with that, and it just seems like it's starting to come together. That trust that you need in the wide receivers, the offensive line is starting to play a little more solidly, and they've been a lot more aggressive. They started taking deep shots down the field, and since they've done that, with the emergence of Michael Pittman, this offense has really gone to another level.
Yeah, speaking of that, man, Pittman looks like he's the #1 go-to guy. I mean, did y'all envision him to come on this fast, this soon?
Yeah, I think he's a little bit ahead of schedule. When they brought him in, Frank Reich said on draft day, you know, this is a guy we see being a #1 receiver. They thought he would eventually take that torch from T.Y. Hilton, but I think the injuries that Hilton had, it kind of forced Pittman into that role, and he's really stepped up. I think last year, you know, he had his own injuries that he dealt with. He had that compartment leg syndrome, which is a really scary thing, and it really slowed him down, and it took a lot of his season away from him. But I don't think that Phillip Rivers was as willing to kind of throw those 50-50 balls, put it up, you know, throw it deep and let him go get it. Carson Wentz has really taken a lot of trust now, and you saw it right at the end of the game last week, the game-clinching touchdown. Wentz basically just floated the ball in the air and trusted that Pittman would come down with it.
No doubt about it. Went with George Bremer, Indianapolis Colts beat writer. I guess quickly have the Colts, I guess, you know, heard any rumors, any trade rumors that they may trade for some guys? Or trade some guys? Or are they sellers or buyers, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, really the only talk, and it's been for a while now, is around Marlon Mack. You know, just he's made it clear that he'd like another opportunity somewhere else if they can make that work. And so that's really the only thing that's being buzzed about here right now is, you know, is there a deal that works for Marlon Mack?
Well, with George Bremer, Indianapolis Colts beat writer.
So, George, the defense in this 4-game stretch, which really should have been 4 wins, you got beat by Superman, Lamar Jackson. It's still unbelievable that they found a way to win that game. But during this this 4-game stretch, Colts defensive line just 17 points per game. They're also tied for first in the NFL in takeaways, and they've had 10 of those in the last 4 weeks. What kind of flipped the switch there for the defense?
Yeah, really, Darius Leonard. I mean, he's always been the engine for this team, and it took him, I think, a little while to figure out how to play on a bad wheel. It's been healing, but he's just been such a difference maker. He's got 2 interceptions, which is tied for the team lead. But that punch out, it's almost Charles Tillman-like, if you remember him with the Bears for all those years under Lovie Smith. He's got that ability to just come in and hit the ball on almost every play, and really, you got to be aware of that. He's forced so many fumbles this year just on plays where he almost even doesn't care about the tackle. He's going to try to get the ball out.
On offense, the running game seems to be clicking, if I'm not mistaken, almost 150 yards a game, again, over this 4-week stretch. But Jonathan Taylor has run his way to second in line behind Derrick Henry right now in the NFL rushing race.
Yeah, they have a lot of faith in Taylor. You know, he came on at the end of the year last year and really started to look like a star, and he just picked up where he left off. He's a guy, he said today, that he really admires Derrick Henry. He's watched, everything that Henry does, but he knows that Derrick Henry's a special guy. There aren't many like him. I think that Taylor's kind of in that category. His size and his speed, he's no Derrick Henry. There's only one of him. But I think that Jonathan Taylor is a very unique back, and they've been using him more in the passing game this year as well. I think it's something that they thought that he had. He didn't show a lot of it at Wisconsin, but he's really started to make an impact there as well, and I think it's opened up the rest of his game for him a little bit.
Well, Nyheim Hines is a guy we're all still having flashbacks from last year where it's his birthday, and he kept telling the coaches, don't take me out, I'm doing too well. That guy with the way he catches the ball and the different ways you can employ him, he's given the Titans trouble and other teams too.
Yeah, he's off to a little bit of a slow start. I think they're still trying to figure out that balance with him and Taylor and Mack. But he's always a guy who can hurt you in a lot of different ways, and I know that they're going to try to get him involved again this week because of his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah, absolutely. George Bremer at GM Bremer, our guest, covers the Colts beat for the Herald Bulletin newspaper in Indiana.
Well, George, have you asked any of the guys for the Colts on the defensive side, what's it like tackling the king, or what's the key to tackling the king?
Yeah, they all talk about that stiff arm and how deadly it is. You want to try to stay off the highlight reels because he'll put you on there real fast. Bobby Okereke was talking about that a little bit today, that obviously you want to go for his legs because he's a big guy and that's your best chance, but you got to be really careful because he'll just kind of swat you down and you end up with nothing but grass in a hurry. And DeForest Buckner said earlier this week, it's an all-day thing. He's going to get the ball 25, 30 times. You're going to feel that after the game. You know that you put in a full day's work when you go against Derrick Henry.
Well, we were looking at the draft class of the Titans. It made me think about you guys. How's your draft class the last 2 years been contributing to the team?
Yeah, this year there really hasn't been a lot of impact yet. I think that's one of the things that there's been a lot of buzz about here in Indy. Quiddy Pace had that hamstring injury, and, he's been coming back the last couple weeks a little bit from that, but I don't think we've seen 100% of him yet. Dio Dangbo, the second-round pick, has just started practicing. He's probably still at least another week away from being activated, and who knows how long till he can actually be a factor out there. And they were the guys, they really expected to come in and be those bookends on the defensive line and drive that pass rush. Obviously, they haven't been able to see that yet. Really, the only other rookie that's seen a lot of time is Kylan Granson. He's kind of the third tight end, so he's still kind of working his way into the offense as well. But it's been a real quiet draft class this year for the Colts.
I don't know if it's just against the Titans, or does Frank Reich go for it on fourth down all the time? I mean, against everybody, just depending on when it is and what's the rhyme and reason behind that. But kind of take us through. Have y'all ever talked to him about him going for it on fourth down and whether good or bad in the situations that he went for it?
Yeah, he's been real aggressive, since he got here. He's got a couple analytic guys up in the box, and they have a sheet that they prepared for him. It doesn't go – it's not 100% on that sheet. Some of it's gut feeling. Some of it's a situation on that day. But, yeah, absolutely. It's a big part of what they do. The players have talked about it quite a bit too. That they feel like there's a lot of trust that he has in the offense that they can pick up these 4th and short situations. And it's one thing when he goes for it on 4th and 1, he'll do it on 4th and 4, 4th and 5 sometimes, and really kind of raise your eyebrows a little bit.
With George Bremer, Indianapolis Colts beat writer and a chirper.
Did I see, George, that I think on your Twitter they're still trying to nail down the right guard spot maybe for the Colts this week?
Yeah, it's kind of a good problem for them to have. Chris Reed played so well on the left side when Quentin Nelson was out that they wanted to find a way to keep him in the lineup. They kind of rotated him and Glowinski on the right side last week in San Francisco. More snaps for Reed than Glowinski, and I think it's probably going to be similar to that again on Sunday, but they really like the job that he did, and I think he's kind of forced himself into the lineup here.
Well, one of the guys he's going to see a lot of, or whomever plays guard, is going to be Danico Autry, and the guy's played great, and we had, like you mentioned, you came on with us during training camp, and we were asking you about that guy, and we were all really excited about his acquisition because we'd seen how well he played against the Titans all these years, but, man, that guy's been really good, George.
Yeah, they've missed him here in Indy, too. I mean, this pass rush has not been what they expect it to be. They've been better the last few weeks. All areas of the team has been better the last few weeks, but I don't think it's still up to the standard they want it to be. And Autry, he always seemed to play his biggest in the division games. I'm sure he's going to have a little extra motivation, a little chip on his shoulder on Sunday coming in back into Indianapolis.
All right, before we let you go, I wanted to ask you this. You're covering a team in the division. You've kind of seen the emergence of Ryan Tannehill and really how much it's changed the Titans' offense and changed things for Derrick Henry. There seems to be this national narrative that Tannehill is just not a guy who can get it done, that the Titans can't win big because of him. And really it seems like a lot of times what he's able to do within the confines of this offense, he's got more comeback wins than anybody in the league and all these other statistics since he became the starting quarterback. What do you see with Ryan Tannehill when you watch him?
I know he's always been a problem for the Colts. I mean, even when he was with Miami, his ability to make plays with his legs as well as his arm, he has always given this team fits. I think the last 3 of the last 4, I think Tennessee's won in this series, and I think he's made a big pass play, at least one, every one of those games. A lot of back-breaking throws from him. Colts had enough trouble with Derrick Henry. I mean, to the point where they held him, quote unquote, to 113 yards the last time. It felt like a victory just because it's Derrick Henry. But I think that when you put too much focus on him, Tannehill, he can hurt you in so many ways. And now with the addition of Julio Jones, A.J. Brown's another guy that just absolutely killed this team. Now you got Julio Jones to worry about as well. It's a big, big challenge for this defense. I think Tannehill's done a really good job of knowing when to pick his spots and make those kind of back-breaking throws when they're available.
George, we appreciate the time. Again, people can follow you. Great follow. I follow you. Keep up with all the Colt stuff at GM Bremer. Always appreciate the time and appreciate catching up with you. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, George.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Yes, sir. At GMBREMER on Twitter, Colts Beat Herald Bulletin. Yeah, the Colts are essentially a different team, statistically anyway, since they played the Titans in the last month. They've really rounded into shape, and the quarterback seems to have 2 good ankles again. And there were a bunch of people who just wanted to write him off when it's like, this is going to be terrible. They're going to be terrible. He's going to be terrible. Well, he had his best seasons with Frank Reich. I mean, he got put in a situation where it's like, oh, no, you're the undisputed starter. You're here to do one thing, and that's start and win games for this team. He's got a great team around him. I mean, Michael Pittman, as you brought up, has turned into a monster. They got so many running backs, they're looking at maybe trading one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they paid a bunch of money on the offensive line.
And they're healthy now. Nelson's back, who's a stud, and Fisher's playing better.
Yep.
I mean, he's back. This is a dangerous team. And Wentz, I've been thoroughly impressed. I've watched him the last 3 weeks, and I'm going,
yeah,
this look like trouble right here.
Yeah.
I mean, even in a loss, and it was really the defense against the Ravens, and it was Lamar Jackson. I mean, man,
right.
He was running and throwing like I've never seen him do before. He looked like MVP. Lamar, and the defense kind of just, gave up. I think it might have been a 20-point lead or something. Like, man, it was a big one. That was a nationally televised game. They had that game under control, and all of a sudden in the second half, the Ravens just took over. I don't think the Ravens have played that well since.
No.
But the Colts look good. Wentz looked good. Even in the rain, he was running around. I mean, getting tackled below his legs, doing flips and everything else against the 49ers. They look solid. Pittman looked like he was inspired. He was pumped up all game long. I don't know if it's because he was back on the West Coast, but they look like a really good team. This is gonna be a good one. This is gonna be playoff flavor. And when I say that, I'm talking about the atmosphere. I'm talking about the desperation to win this game and take control. Yeah, for the Titans. It's just oof. Man, I want a front row seat. This is just like seeing Tyson versus whoever you want to put him against, except Tyson got knocked out. Holyfield.
Well, Kings got, 4 straight 100-yard games against them? 4 straight is the number.
Yeah, and guess what, man? I love when you said it because, as players, you kind of lose track of what's going on. You're in your little bubble. Then the media reminds you, and then all of a sudden they go, "Oh, well, he ain't knowing that again. We can't do it." He 4 times.
4 times.
Oh man, that's disrespect. How about this? Then you start going around. This is what I would do: go around and start asking, "Have you been here the last 4 years? Have you been here the last 4 years?" Ask every guy on the defense that starts. Yeah, this guy's run right through our defense. Well, how you feel about that? This ain't Pee Wee. This ain't Pop Warner. He's not the best player on the field. What we got to do? We got to stop this guy.
Yep.
If we don't stop him, we have no shot of winning. What do you think? Well, goo goo gaga, yeah, laughing at lunch and everything. I walked by. King had hunted 4 times. 4 times. 4 times. 4 times. Then I'm to the point where you just are sick of it. And when you get in the game, you're sick of him. That's just, that's how you have to be in defense. It's so hard to play it. So, yeah, I think that's pretty remarkable. I just want him to win. I don't care if he gets 100 or not.
Well, as you said, he has a lot of carries, 85, 86 yards, but 30 carries. That's probably a real good sign because that means they controlled the clock and kept the ball away from the Colts.
That means they still won a game.
Sure
They're
did.
controlling it. Yep.
When we come back, what is the proper way to deny that you are interested in a football job for your coach? We have a master class in how you deny interest and then how you don't deny interest in a job. This is a fascinating thing. It is coming up next.
Coming up today on the 3HL.
We are inching closer to the weekend, and you know what happens on Thursday? We all get a little educated by Greg Cosell, NFL Films. He'll break down the film, and we'll look ahead to the Colts. How different of a team are they now?
It's only right that we bring the Savage guy in when they're playing like this in the trenches for the Titans to try to get an understanding. Ramon Foster will also join us.
Oh, also, don't forget Austin Huff. He'll have a rant. I wonder if it has anything to do with an MVP Derrick Henry run.
Well, if it does, it better be MV King. Let's start it up. Let's get ready.
Today, starting at 3 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
guys going into the transfer portal now. Now, obviously, he'll finish school and he'll just go to class and he'll finish out the semester. But interesting to just go ahead and jump away now. That is a guy who thought, hey, man, this is going nowhere. I need to just go ahead and, I'll just study and wait for the semester to end, and I'll jump somewhere else in January and get ready for spring football. But only played in one game this year, Harrison Bailey, but put on his social media yesterday that he had entered the transfer portal. Guy started games last year as a true freshman.
Yeah, but to tell him the tape was when he didn't get in, I think it was Tennessee Tech that they played, till halfway through the fourth quarter, and they had that game well under control, and it's almost like they didn't want to put him in there.
Yep.
For whatever reason. Now, he's played for two different coaches, and they got to see a lot of tape on him, and they saw him in practice. So, obviously, they saw something that they don't like, and it's pretty clear. So, that'd be the question I asked Doug Mathews. There's going to probably – I would guess there'll be another trickling out, maybe not at quarterback, but he got him and Maurer both left. Mm-hmm. But will there be more players just at a lower level number as far as – when they first took over the job, because they may not get any playing time, and they still quality, football players. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I think the timing's always interesting because that's the first thing someone asked me, and I said, well, it does seem weird, but to him and to benefit him, he needs to get a jump start because of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Because there's other quarterbacks that may be available at the end, so he's trying to stay ahead of them to go to another school. So as bad as it looked, probably our perception of something like that 2 years ago, when there wasn't a portal, then I think he's trying to stay ahead of it so he can have the best opportunity that's available to him.
That's 100% it. You nailed it. That's it.
Yeah,
hey, man, I got my name out there first. Everybody knows I'm available. Yeah. Commit to me now. Yeah.
It's not like they're, going to the national championship this
right.
year. They'll probably go to a bowl game, but I think that sacrifice is more worth you're getting a jump start on your next, school. So, yeah.
Speaking of next schools, when coaches get asked about openings and their name being open, there's kind of a right way and a wrong way to do this, and then maybe there's somewhere in the middle. I give you Exhibit A, James Franklin, when asked about outside noise and being mentioned for other jobs.
I think I have shown my loyalty to this team, to this program, to this community. I think I've been pretty consistent with that. There's times that you're put in challenging situations, and I just always want to be able to, when I say something, it's done, and it's in stone. And when you're talking about the future, that could be challenging at times. So I am fiercely loyal to Penn State. I am fiercely loyal, most importantly, to these players and the staff. But there's a lot of moving parts with all of these things. There's a lot of moving parts, some of which we have talked about in the past. But at some point when it's appropriate, I would love to sit down with you guys and just kind of talk through college football, talk through these circumstances and these situations that come up.
Okay, so just if you're scoring at home, that is him saying, USC, LSU, you have my number. I'm more than available. And when I leave, then I'll, if I talk to the media again, I'll explain why that was a better job than this one. Now, if you want to know a master class and how to shut down your name being mentioned in something, listen to Mike Tomlin when he is told that his name was mentioned for a college job.
Guys, I don't have time for that speculation. I mean, that's a joke to me. I got one of the best jobs in all of professional sport. Why would I have any interest in coaching college football? That'll be the last time that I address it. And not only today, but moving forward. Never say never, but never. Okay? Anybody else got any questions about any college jobs? There's not a booster with a big enough blank check.
Anyone else? All right.
Thank you. Anybody asking Sean Payton about that? Anybody asking Andy Reid about stuff like that?
Just walks off.
And he got up and he walked off.
Well, the reason why I think they asked him, I know he was just a little irritated, but Carson Palmer mentioned him as a candidate, being that he's a USC, alum. So I'm sure he has a little bit of clout over there. So, but I love that answer. You saw one guy is like shutting the door and another person negotiating through the media.
Yes.
In James Franklin. Whether there's teams out there or not that are interested in him, and it's because of the way they, you can talk to anybody, your agent can, when you're still a coach somewhere else. I mean, this is crazy. You talking about, they think Coach Pruitt, James Pruitt is bamboozling Tennessee. No, college coaches can bamboozle for new contracts. That's what's unheard of. You've been an administrator, associate athletic director. How would you take what James Franklin said?
Oh, I'd start drawing up the exit paperwork. I would know what my strategy was. They always have their list.
I mean, the guy's making $8 million, some crazy number. Like, really? So you're thinking about LSU? Well, if you're thinking, then you're not all in with us.
Nope.
And then he's actually basically saying, when I ask for something, I want people to So basically, he's telling us, when you ask for something, you want them to do and jump, and you say how high, and that's it. It's your way or the highway. So yeah, I'd be like, we got the punch list is getting together right now on my 5 punch list.
But to be fair, though, it's a lot easier to shut down that speculation when you truly have no interest, which Mike Tomlin does not, and when you're James Franklin, when you probably have interest, it's a little more difficult, right, to shut it down effectively while still leaving the door open.
It is, and it is. But I'll say this. You could do a much better job than what James Franklin just did.
Well, yeah, right. But here's the PR move. It's not about if you can or can't.
Right.
You can do whatever you want behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yes.
But to the media, you got to act like it's nothing. Like there is no possibility. That doesn't mean his agent still isn't out there talking to people.
When he said, I'd love to sit down with you guys and talk about the world of college football.
Wrong answer.
That means when I leave, I'll explain to you why the better job is the one that I took besides the one that's here, you dummies.
That's a Scrooge there, man. Yeah, some of this stuff, I would love to. I wish I could be an athletic director because I would make sure all my head coaches, I hope some of the administrators are listening, ADs out here, have taken leadership development programs because a lot of people assume head coaches are leaders. That's a wrong assumption. They are not all leaders. They know how to read the X's and O's of a football play, but are they actual leaders of young men? So I'd be interested to see how many of them have taken leadership classes before they've even thought about getting hired, because that would be my requirement as an athletic director. Because if he did, they would know he can't do that. Yeah. But see, now they've emboldened him and empowered him so much that he can say stuff like this to the public and not have any regard or repercussions to it.
Still cashes $8 million checks.
Mm-hmm.
Hour number 2 coming up. Doug Mathews set to join us. We'll talk Vols and more's coming up in about 20 minutes. Although, got a Titans practice report. We'll hit that with you next.
Friday night, it's Nashville Christian School at DCA on the 104.5 The Zone Game of the Week, presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office and Paul Winkler Investing. Coverage starts Friday night at 6:30 with Will Bowling and Lucas Panzica on your home for high school football. 104.5 The Zone.
man. A big man with a groin, that's like, man, with a messed up calf, man.
Like a fast guy with a messed up calf.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's it, man. Oh man, that's not good, man. He was doing so well. Man, a lot of people. Well, he don't have to run that far. Yeah, they do. That could hurt him. And Reynolds, what about Reynolds? That's my only other one.
I don't see what Reynolds was listed as yesterday. They don't put out the official report until we get finished. It comes on right as we leave the room, basically. When we're in the parking lot, they drop it at 2:59. Right. I'd have to go back and try to.
Julio's just hammy, just kind of protect him a little bit.
I wouldn't be surprised if Julio played, right? I mean, would you? I mean, protect him. I mean, he knows pretty much what he's doing, I would say. So, no reason for him to run around too much. There's going
to be a lot of key pieces out there for this one. Then we had Jayon Brown yesterday. Even if it's in a reduced role, he's still a valuable piece.
Yeah, he's in that 21 days where you're not off the team and you're not on the team. Oh. He's in the return to play protocol.
Dang. If
Jayon is back, though, suddenly then you have Jayon and you have David Long and you have Rashaan Evans. That's three pretty, and Monty Rice for special teams.
You're also forgetting Avery Williamson.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
Right. Well, I haven't seen him either, but now you got
him.
We
in the
know
mix.
what he can do in the game.
4 guys in the mix, and that's going to be this may be a good Avery Williamson game because you're going to be running into each other a lot on Sunday. I mean, I know you got to cover Pittman, but the Colts have been running the crap out of the ball.
Well, I think you have to stay with Long and Evans. I mean, no, we haven't talked a lot. At least I haven't. Evans, got a pick, tip ball pick as well as a fumble recovery in the last game. I think those two are the starters.
Yeah.
You can't have, a lot of people always asking about Jayon Brown and put him out there with Long, but you don't want 2 smallish guys out there. I know it's a passing league, but you can't do that.
Well, especially against a team like the Colts. I mean, don't you need somebody who can play the run heavy like Rashaan Evans can?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Long is he's slippery. He gets off blocks. He can cover a lot of ground. I mean, he's been such a good find. But again, I'll say this. I think people always will tweet us and say, I love when Blaine talks ball, when you talk about how plays and things are happening and scheme-wise. But I always felt like you're good at evaluation, too. And when they drafted David Long, you're like, don't even look at where they drafted this guy. Forget the draft number because he's going to play. This will be a good player. Mm-hmm. You're not the defensive player of the year in a conference, a Power 5 conference, unless you can play. Mm-hmm. And Coach Mack, remember, we asked him about him, and he even said it again to us on Tuesday. He said, they used him to rush the passer. He said, which I would have, too, because he was the best athlete they had. But he said, for what he has to do in the NFL, he's doing great at it.
Well, he did a lot of see ball, get ball.
Yep.
And he's really smart at reading your keys and reads in that triangle when you're at the linebacker spot. And he triggers and he gets to move. And he uses his strength, his quickness, and getting to the play and get on you quickly for those massive guys to block him. And he tries to avoid blocks. And he's physical enough to take them on, even though he's on the smaller side of being an inside linebacker in the National Football League. So, I really appreciate those guys and realize that those guys can be very effective in a game. And for a long time, I mean, Sam Mills, the late, great Sam Mills, was a great player as well. Smaller guy. And I think Long, and then I kept on saying, well, he can't cover. Well, it's because he was never asked to do that. It wasn't because he didn't have the speed to do it.
Right.
So he just needed the reps, and he worked on it. I saw him working out this summer on pass coverage. So I really like what he brings to the table. He's a good leader. He's also a really bright and smart football player. Those all equate to having success in the National Football League. You're sitting here looking at one. That's exactly what he is, that kind of guy. We need a late round guy. Only reason why he went 7th round and he was a Big 12 player is because of his height. If he was the same height as Rashaan Evans, 6'1", 2", this guy goes first round. He go first round because he had all the skills. He had all of them. Yeah. So, hey, that's the way the league works. They want to go with the upside instead of what they actually see on the field. And that's how you miss and drive. They do have a lot of upside, but when do you equate? That's why I said that about Milton. Well, when is the upside over? He can't continue to do it for his whole career.
Right.
Well, when is it over? He's been playing. We've seen him. What he can do. I mean, he is who he is. If his upside's been there for 4 years, then that's who he is.
The whole thing about the NFL is just fascinating because when you say that, you're dead serious. If David Long was 2 inches taller, he goes from the late rounds to
probably top 3 rounds for sure.
Right. Oh, certainly in the first three.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that's his position, just because the way it's kind of valued in the NFL now. People feel like you can get better value for a middle linebacker later. It didn't used to be that way, but it's more that way now. But, yeah, he's probably a second-round draft pick if he's just taller.
Mm-hmm. Just taller.
Just taller.
That's it.
So that was – JR has done a really good job of mining Chris Jackson.
Oh,
You like that dude from the day they got him.
I think I like late round guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
to a certain extent, because I was a late round guy, because those guys are hard to find. And you're looking for certain traits. And one of the traits that you can't equate is how smart is he as a football player, given his talent. That's why I like Molden. I hear everybody, oh, he can't run with the deep ball. Well, let him make mistakes, and he's going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. Well, seems like he's figuring it out.
Yeah, that's amazing what he can figure out when he plays.
Because they're lacking in size, but they have it in acumen as a football player. And you cannot and that's why some of these guys that come from the big schools, they get in the league and you go, oh man, I thought he was going to be a great player. And you go, he just was an okay NFL player. You wonder why. It's because the acumen of a football player. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why certain guys have success, and there's a reason why they had C on their chest. There's a reason. Yeah. They lead other people, and they demand the best out of themselves because they've always been against the odds. People told them what they couldn't do because of their size.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And Chris Jackson, oh, man, I loved him when he came out.
Well, you
he
talked a lot about his
safety,
You
nickel.
talked about his hips, too.
Yep.
Yeah, hips don't lie.
I was only worried about his deep end speed because you never got to see him actually have to do that a lot playing corner. He was always over top of people, but I wanted to see him go against a dude that's a blazer. Well, if you play great technique, some of the little tricks of the trade, you learn how to slow them down a little bit, hitting their stride length and their arm while they're striding and their leg. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ways you can make if you're a 4.51 guy and a guy that's a 4.4 guy, you can run with him if you're technically sound.
Mm-hmm. Arm chopping, that kind of thing.
Yeah. One of the better corners nobody talks about that was in the league during my era is Darrelle Revis.
Mm-hmm.
You watch him on tape, he didn't look like he was real fast.
No.
But he was a technician. Woo.
Didn't see anybody running by him, did you?
No. Not very often, unless it was somebody named Moss.
Well, yeah.
He was running by him.
That's a term. You got mossed. We're going to get mossed by Lucas if we don't get to the break when we come back. Doug Mathews, Snoop Doggy Doug, is going to join us to talk a little Tennessee Vols. That's coming up next.
J-Mart and Ramon.
Oh, man, we appreciate you, brother. Keep on rolling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys.
Indeed. That's oh, Lord. I just sniped him. Ola, did you snipe him? Ola, you're back. Say what you were saying there at the end. I'm sorry.
Man, I wanted to say tighten up, man.
There you go.
Tomorrow from 6 to 10 on 104.5 The Zone.
Well, two different areas, importantly. From a team perspective, obviously, it is to get healthy. Kind of depending on when the off week was, but this is a great opportunity for Tennessee. They played 8 ball games, have certainly have some injuries that they're going to be able to get players back on, and other ones that just kind of beat up a little bit, not really injuries, but they're going to be able to do all that. But the other part of it is too now, and of course it is even more so back when I was coaching, you're out recruiting. Now they have a limit on the number of days you can be out, not consecutively, but overall. So they kind of limit that a little bit. But when we had an open date back when I was coaching Tennessee, we would be out at least 3 days recruiting. Usually the coordinators would stay back, a couple of them. Everybody else would be out on the road, though, seeing prospects. Of course, back then, the signing day was in February.
Right.
Now, of course, the signing date, the first one is in December, so it's even a little bit more heightened.
Do you like that early signing day? Because if for a while it was early signing day, but now it's effectively signing day for 90% of people. Do you like this? And I say that, Coach, saying this. If you're a team like the Sun Belt, Mac, your team's playing in a bowl game at that point. Your coach is at a bowl site trying to finish getting his class hooked up.
Yeah, I really do like it. And I like it really for all divisions, because now, even let's say you're not a Power 5 school, you're a MAC school or or Conference USA or a smaller conference. Now in December, who you don't have to recruit anymore. I had several jobs working my way up to division or Power 5 where I was at schools like that. I was at Weber State. I was at in Northeast Louisiana. Louisville at that time was certainly not a Power 5 school. And you were always wondering about the players that you were recruiting. Hey, are the big boys going to come in here later? Well, now you know. So that gives you an opportunity afterwards to do that. And quite frankly, that's what most of those schools do. They don't sign a whole lot on the signing day, except ones they really, really want and are available. They wait till the Power 5 schools come in and get, take the players they're going to take. And that way, those smaller schools don't waste money. So I think it's good for them. And it's good for the bigger schools too. Most of these young men know where they're going to go. The great majority of them do. But what a lot of them do, they'll say, let's say a kid's going to go to Tennessee, but he's been offered a chance to go to Hawaii to visit, or Southern Cal, or Miami, Florida. He probably will take those trips. Now they won't do that.
Coach Doug Mathews, our guest here on Blaine and Mickey, is brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Drunk you makes bad decisions, so make a plan before you party. The Tennessee Highway Safety Office reminds you that fans don't let fans drive drunk. We got the coach on.
Yeah, Coach Dougie Fresh. I guess to add to that, you talked about what the coaches do. What do you have the players do during the bye week in referencing preparing for Kentucky, or you don't do anything and wait till the next week?
Well, first off, let's talk about that part of it. Yes, you get your film graded. They came in last Sunday and got the film graded and met with the players. And then I think Tennessee practiced 3 days. I think they practiced 3 days, or the early part. Some places practice late in the week, but you normally always give them a couple of 3 days off. We did it, and they may have done the same thing. I'm not exactly sure. We did it on the weekends, Blaine, so that a lot of our young men could go home, or the ones who were too far away to go home, they could go with one of their teammates someplace. That's part of it. But the other thing is, this is when the academic arm, in Tennessee's case, the Thornton Center, comes in. Now they're always there, but now this is you got 2 or 3 or 4 days where the coaches are gone, and you have an opportunity to really dig into the academic part. Are we having trouble? What do we need to do on that? You have an opportunity to do that too. So this is kind of a catch-up week, and all the way around, athletically, academically, health-wise, all of those areas, it's kind of a catch-up week.
How surprised were you, I guess, with Harrison Bailey entering the portal? And was that the right time to actually do it? I thought it was, because you want to get a jump start. Now, back in our era, you wouldn't do that. You'd probably be kind of scarred and looked at funny if you left in the middle of the season. But he can get a jump start on a school that maybe be interested in him, that he can be first in the line. How do you perceive what, Bailey is doing in the timing? And do you expect to see maybe a couple other guys too at some point?
Well, actually, I was a little surprised that he hadn't left or he hadn't gone in the portal
Right.
earlier than this. But
Mhm.
yeah, he sees this. I think anybody that really watches it closely sees it. Coach Heupel is going to go, it looks like, with a quarterback that's much more mobile than he is. And I'm sure that Harrison Bailey is going to go somewhere and play for some coach that is more of his skill set on that. Where it'll be, I don't know. Can't blame the young man at all. That's what the portal's in place for. Quarterback is the one position. We all know that if you're the second team quarterback, you just don't play a whole lot unless it's a blowout or one way or the other. So I don't know him, but I know a lot of people, everybody up there talks glowingly about him. He'll go some place now and have an opportunity. He probably was going to be a third teamer, not because of talent, but because of the skill set that Coach Heupel wants at the quarterback. But there's several places that he can go that's their offensive scheme. More of a pocket quarterback. He can run a little bit, but that's not his strength. Smart guy, good arm. He's been around now 2 years in college football, so more power to him. I'm not a surprise that he's leaving, though. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I guess one more question that's more off the field, and you've been around the SEC for a very long time, Coach. Should the SEC officials be full-time employees? Because I think that's why we're having all these issues with some of these bad calls, let's say.
Well, here is the what I would pose to that suggestion.
Okay.
How are they going to get better if they're full-time officials? There's not any other games to call, right? You can only call one game a week. So are you going to be sitting in watching tape or talking to people, or what are you going to be doing to get better? I think the way that they have it right now is probably the way they're going to go. And then how much you're going to have to pay them. Now, money's not that big a problem, let's face it. But right. They got 8 crews. They probably have 60 to 70 referees, officials. That's not including the review officials. There are probably 80 to 100 people that you're talking about paying full time. Blaine, there's really been, I know there's been, and this has been something that's been talked about, for quite a while. It's talked about in the NFL a lot. But quite frankly, there's absolutely no appetite from anybody that's making that decision to do it. I mean, they're simply not going to go that direction, period.
Okay, well, to the field, Coach. We're on with Coach Doug Mathews and talking all Tennessee football, and that is, what were your takeaways from the Bama game?
I thought Tennessee played as well as they could play. I really did. Could they have done a few things? Yes. Could they have hit a pass here? Could they have made a few more tackles? Yes. But they played first off, I thought they played sound. They only had one turnover, had way too many penalties, silly penalties. When you play a team that's as skilled offensively and defensively as Alabama is, you're going to get some holding calls and some plays during the play. But the ones that were just, it just gives you gray hair as a coach are those pre-snap penalties and post-play penalties, hitting somebody out of bounds, jumping off sides, things like that. You can live with a hold every now and then because, again, quick athletes, Blaine, as you know, quick athletes, they make you do that some of the times. But way too many penalties. Tennessee, there were two big areas at Tennessee, other than the fact that obviously Alabama was more talented than they were, much more. There were two big areas, though, that were big in this ball game. Third downs and third down conversions and penalties. Alabama was 15 for 20 in third downs. Tennessee was 2 for 13. So Tennessee couldn't stay off the field. They couldn't get Alabama off the field. Couldn't stay on the field. Tennessee couldn't stay on the field. They couldn't get Alabama off the field. And then penalties. There were drives. There were 3 drives that penalties kept drives alive for Alabama on third down, and Tennessee cost themselves a couple of penalties on that. So was it the difference in the game? No, but that was the those were the lessons that'll come out of this game for Tennessee. Believe me, they'll be harping on that. But third down conversions, just think about this: if Tennessee would have just held Alabama to 50% on third downs, which would have been 10, that's 5 less first and 10s, and that's probably at least 4 or 5 more punts. So if you look at it like that, it was a factor. Was it a factor in the final score of the game? No, I don't think so at all. That was going to be what it was. But certainly those are things Tennessee needs to improve on. If they're going to beat Kentucky, they can't have the third down differential and the penalties that they had in that ball game and stand much of a chance.
Going with the coach, Doug Mathews.
Coach, you mentioned penalties. There's so much talk about Jeremy Banks and him getting penalties, but he's 5th in the SEC in tackles, but all these personal fouls and things that you have to deal with. As a coach, you got to love the aggression because that makes him who he is, but how do you just try to get to fixing the other stuff?
You just keep working with him, because of some of the things that happened in his past. There are some people, Tennessee fans, I'm sure, who just don't like the guy because of some things that happened in his past, off the field, I might say. I can understand that. But the fact of the matter is, if you watch that whole defense play, other than Theo Jackson, I don't think there's another player on that field that's playing as well as Jeremy Banks is playing. I mean, he is all over the field, making a lot of plays. He plays almost every snap. He's physical. He's gotten much better in his own pass coverage. But you simply can't do the good teams do not hit players out of bounds. Now, and that was that was a 15-yard penalty that it kept the drive alive. And it was kind of silly, really. Yeah. I mean, I think Blaine's probably heard this from everybody who's coached him. If you're going to get a 15-yard penalty, hell, get a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, right. No doubt, Coach. Get your money's worth.
Don't give a little push and shove a guy around. If you're going to get one, get one. Having said that, though, he is really playing well. He's become an excellent linebacker. Tennessee linebackers a place that Tennessee, quite frankly, is not real solid, but he is, and he's played well. He really has, but he needs to clean that up. The answer is, though, the old coaching adage is that I've heard head coaches use so much. They'll pull a guy out of the game and say, "You're not worth 15 yards to me. You're not that good a player." But looking who's behind him, he might be worth 15 yards.
Worth those 15. Have you been just surprised overall by the play of the defense? I know they've given up a lot of yards. To teams like Ole Miss. I get that in Alabama, but have you been surprised overall by their play? I think they're first, second in the nation in tackles for loss. They're aggressive. I mean, overall, your evaluation of the defense so far?
Absolutely. This is a team going in. Now, they had older players. They had 6 or 7 on defense of fifth-year seniors or in some instances, even the COVID seniors on that, particularly in the secondary and the defensive tackle position. But in the defensive front, everybody knew going in, this front four. Now Barron, and this youngster, Byron Young, now he's starting to make himself known there. He has the quickness and the ability of defensive end. But the defensive line, they were not good. I'm not saying they weren't good. There was nobody up there that was a dog pass rusher. They're good, but they're not dog pass rushers. And linebacker, other than Banks, and he was an above average player coming in, but the other linebacker position, whoever's playing there, below average in this league. Secondary, they've got a lot of play out of there. Their cornerbacks in particular, well, really all 5 of them. Theo Jackson, by the way, Theo Jackson was out last week, and they had another one of their corners was out. They got some young guys that got in and got some experience and played pretty darn well. But absolutely, the thing that they have done, guys, is that they're lining up correctly. You may laugh. Some may laugh and say, well, they should do that. Yeah, they should, but they haven't in the past. They're keeping good contained. They're keeping good pressure. They miss in this particular ball game in the last couple. They missed some open field tackles, but again, that happens some. But no, they're flying to the ball. Just think about this. In the last 2 ball games, This defensive team has played 193 snaps on defense. The average in a college game is 72. That's the average. They're averaging, 95 a game now? So, not more than that. So but yes, I from my standpoint, I coached that side of the ball, coordinated that side of the ball at Tennessee. I don't know that you'd be much happier with that. You'd like to see a few more plays, big plays. You'd like to see the ball strip a little bit. But the problem that Tennessee has, a decision that coordinator Tim Banks has to make is, I'm not going to get pass rush against a good team without bringing pressure, without bringing more than 4. If I bring more than 4, then I don't have the skill set back to match up with the players that I need to be able to match up with in this league. So you got to choose, you got to choose what you're going to do. Tennessee sometimes they're a much better man team than they are a zone team. But when you play man against the quarterbacks that Tennessee's been playing against, they pull the ball down, they run for 10 yards. So it's you got to kind of mix things up. But overall, I couldn't be any more happier with what Tim Banks and that defensive staff have done this year.
Yeah, I completely agree, and they probably need some more guys up front to kind of go against those elites in the SEC. But, Coach, I've only played I know you asked me this before. I've only played 100 snaps or more in 2 NFL games.
Yeah,
never in college, ever.
Yeah,
ever. And why I want to add that is that kind of the backdrop when you don't do well on third down with this up-pace offense and you don't do well on third down on defense, this is what can happen. Because they're going to wear down in a league like the SEC, the best in the country. You can't continue that moment and think you're going to win some games.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was talking about on those third downs. If they just hold them to 5 less, if they just hold them to 50%, which again, 50% is not good. But if you can just hold them to 50%, they're off the field 5 more times. They're sitting over there getting the break on that. But no, absolutely.
And you also got to be able to run the football, though. They couldn't run the football at all versus Bama.
If you look at the statistics, Blaine, Mickey, if you look at the statistics, the score really could have been worse. And let me just say this about the score. We all know, the moral victory thing. I never heard a coach ever mention moral victory, but the fact of the matter is this: if Josh Heupel would have done what a lot of coaches would have done, and when the game was over, essentially at the 10-minute mark of the fourth quarter, if he would have not gone for it on 4th down and punted, then when they, because that set up a touchdown, but in his own end of the field, most coaches, the game was essentially over. It's just the final score. Most coaches would have kicked it. And when he got the ball back, if he wouldn't have tried to throw and just ran the clock out instead of throwing for that interception, the game would have probably been somewhere between 14 and 21 points. I think his thinking is, and I applaud it, what difference does it make if you lose by 10 or 50?
Yeah.
You got your butt beat. The thing that he is doing, and I talk about this all the time on Big Orange Sunday, the thing that he is doing, he is building a program, not worrying about this one particular season, because just like building a house, and the analogy I would use on that is this: you only get one chance to put your foundation in place.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start building the house, you can't go back and reset the foundation. He's setting the foundation. And I defy anybody that really follows football closely. He's got his offensive scheme in. We know what he's going to do there. We know what his defensive scheme is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we know what his kicking scheme is going to be. So the only question that I have right now about Josh Heupel and this staff is this: can they recruit to the championship level at Tennessee? I think he can. I don't know that. I know this. He's got an offensive system that's going to work.
Yep.
He's got a defensive system that's going to work, and his kicking game is going to work. So got to get the horses in there. Got to get the players in there. That's where we're going to find out if he can do or not.
Dang, yes, no doubt about it. Especially in the trenches there on offensive defense, going to get some skill guys all over.
Yeah, Blaine. I want to mention. I know let me get this in real quick. I know we're about to run out of time, but Blaine, you just mentioned that there's not a single level of football that if you don't have offensive and defensive linemen, you're not going to win. Yep. I don't care how good your skill players are. You got to have those. But if you don't have defensive linemen, look at any NFL team. If you don't have offensive linemen, You know, that's if you look at it, that's 9 of your 22 starters. If you don't have those guys, you're going to have a hard time winning. And that's defensive line is Tennessee just average at best. And that's one reason why they're an average football team right now.
Coach, thank you for the time. Tennessee Highway Safety Office making it possible they can catch you Big Orange Saturday or Big Orange Sunday and football Saturday as well, Coach. Always love catching up with you. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Same here. Talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Coach Doug Mathews. When we come back, our latest installment of Derrick Henry is not human. We got stats to prove it. That's next.
The Packers and Cardinals start your NFL weekend on Thursday night. Coverage starts tonight at 7 on your home for Thursday night football. 104.5 The Zone.
NFL with the Rams, who they're about to have.
You know, I want to hear about the playoff teams this year so far, who look like they are.
Well, they didn't put that in.
Last year was last
Kevin
year.
Byard, forced fumbles and fumble recoveries, most among safeties.
Oh yeah, that was a big one.
See, here's another one. They got crazy.
That's not from last year. That's this year.
Yeah, he's just Kevin Byard looks like Kevin Byard. He's that guy that we were all.
But see, he's freed up to be Byard instead of making him. Oh, he can blitz. He can be the cover guy. Instead of just let him be who he is.
Right.
The ball hawk guy. And let him roam and make plays.
Funny how that's working out, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Funny how just letting a guy be a guy is.
That's what he made his name at.
Yeah, he did. So here we are again. He's just getting to be himself. So let's
get better guys around him. That's what happened.
Well, they sure does. They bet on that. We're going to get rid of pretty much everybody except for you, a couple other guys, and then we're just going to see what happens. And they made some good additions, that's for sure. Greg Maben, what an addition last week.
Oh, remember I said he should be. I give him the 4, 5, 6, 7 million that they gave him Jackrabbit.
But it's like, hey, Breon, listen, man, we know you've been here a while. You're gonna stay in your normal role.
That sounded like they recruited a 5-star guy and just jumped the 4-star guy. Like, well, I've been here.
It's like, wait a second, we cut that dude.
No, that was the smart and the right move because he's a better player, and you don't put a guy outside the role that he should be, and that is in emergency he can go out there and do very well.
Right.
You don't want him to be the guy.
Derrick Henry, rushing yards in the first 8 games after a player's 2,000-yard rushing season. So that's 8 people walking the earth.
You got to say that again.
Rushing yards in the first 8 games the next year after a player had 2,000 yards.
Oh, okay.
So it's everybody walking the earth, whoever did it.
Right, which is not that many.
It's not that many. 8. It's 8 people in 101 years.
So how does he compare to that?
Barry Sanders is the top. In 1997, he got 2,053. Through 8 games in 1998, he had 872. Well, here's the thing about Derrick Henry. He's second on the list, and he's only played 7 games. He has 869 yards. He's 3 yards off Barry Sanders' pace, which is by far the best, and he's done that in 7 games. So if he gets 4 yards against Indy, he's on the best pace of any of these 8 humans who got a 2,000-yard NFL season. This is everybody else with 8 games, and him only with 7.
Right, I'm going to ask a dumb question. Has anybody done back-to-back 2,000?
Oh, no, not even close.
I don't think so. Okay, that's how I was saying.
No, here you go.
So what happened with Barry Sanders in that year? He must have fell off a cliff.
This is it. You want to know? This is it.
I'm like, well, he should have had 2,000 again.
Oh, I saw this on NFL Live the other night, and I held up my iPad and took a picture. Here you go.
What?
Most yards after 2,000 rushing yards in a season. This is it. This is the whole thing.
This is 16.
In 98, Barry only got 1,491. And he had half that through 8 games.
Oh.
So he doubled it, basically. He had 7.
That's it.
So he got 14. Nobody's ever hit 1,500 yards.
And his style was different. He would run backwards just to see if he could run forward if it wasn't there.
He'd run 12 yards backwards and get a 3-yard gain out of it. So Barry Sanders, that's the best anybody's ever done. 1,491. Chris Johnson was 1,364.